Well, welcome back. We're so glad that you're here with us. You know, we have with us for this part a very exciting guest. I'm so excited about our guest. Hello, and how are you?
I'm very well, thank you.
Great. We're so excited for you to be with us. Introduce yourself to our viewing audience.
I'm Lorna Klohn, and I write under the name of Jean Murray Munden, and I've published 2 books, and I think today we're going to discuss my first book.
Now that's exciting because when I was looking at the book, I saw Jean Murray Munden. I said, okay, she's the author. And so now you explain that to us. That's powerful. I was looking at your book. I remember April. You talk about 20-year-old Lulu. She has this thing going on. She's talking about engaged and getting married. She's in love. She goes to talk to her grandmother.
Yes.
And they begin to have this interesting dialogue, this interesting conversation. And so take us down that path and give us some exciting information about that. It's a very intriguing book.
Well, Lulu is just is quite young, and she's very close to her grandmother. She's become engaged to her sweetheart that she's known forever, and he's away at university. But she's met somebody else, and she is really confused because she is so attracted to this person, and she goes to her grandmother to say, what shall I do? What is this? What can this all be about? And her grandmother is named Louise. Lulu is named after her grandmother. And Louise thinks about it and says, well, we'll talk. And in the meantime, Louise takes us back. She starts to reflect on her own past and her life and her loves and her family, which and it starts out at the outbreak of the First World War, and when she's about 18 years old, and the story of Lulu of Louise is what we are into, and then it comes back to the present, and Lulu's problem might or might not be resolved, but in the meantime, we learn about her grandmother and relationships to her sisters, the choices that people make and how they changes their way of their whole path of life, and then the importance of good, loving relationships.
I also noticed that there's a love triangle that's going on here. And
yes,
someone where there's quite a difference in the age. Come on, give us some insight into this.
Well, there's a love triangle in both the present and the past. Louise is, when she's young, she becomes engaged, and she, like her granddaughter in the future, meets somebody else, and she has to deal with this problem herself and what she's going to do. And both of these fellows go off to war, and she has to think about what she's going to do, and she doesn't know what she's going to do. She's just really, really confused. She's attracted to one and she's engaged to the other, and everybody's looking forward to her wedding when the war is over, but she's just not sure what she's going to do. And there's a little bit of twist, which I won't reveal, and but there's a lot going on in the story and the different relationships and the different characters, and I hope my readers will enjoy the characters.
I found it to be fascinating with the bit of the book that I did get a chance to look at. I found it how interesting that Lulu is named after her grandmother Louise.
Mm-hmm.
They have this close relationship with each other, but also how interesting it is to find that their lives are sort of parallel.
Yes.
She's finding herself in the same situation. So now she goes to her beloved grandmother, And there's some wisdom, there's some knowledge that grandmother can share, but then from what I understood, she really doesn't tell her what to do, but makes her aware of some things. Talk to us about that.
Well, yes, and actually Lulu is in a sense, and I won't tell you how it ends because that would spoil the story. But she's has to ponder on her what she's going to do too, and but she knows where her heart really is, and her grandmother has said, follow your heart. That's the important thing, to follow your heart, and to you have to make a decision. So that's what she does. She makes a decision.
Of course, we don't want to give it all away, but I thought it just quite fascinating how the two lives parallel, the closeness of the relationship with Lulu and her grandmother. Then she goes to spend this intimate time with her grandmother because she has a very critical decision that's going to impact her life. And the grandmother has been faced with that same situation. So I think that's very wise and interesting, the way that that the book is written that way and puts this together. Magnificently done when you think about that. So share with us a little bit, what was the catalyst that would cause you to write a book like this? What were you thinking?
It was very interesting to me because I forget what really set it off. I don't remember when the story occurred to me, but I have stories, in my head, and I write a lot in my head before I ever put anything down on paper. But the story kind of really rolled out on its own. The characters came to me and they did things, and it was quite fascinating. It's never happened before nor since. It just seemed to gallop along on its own, and they did things, and I just wrote it. It just came to me.
You're saying that the characters wrote the story.
That's the way it felt at the time.
The reason I find that interesting, because I've heard someone say that before, I get the characters, but allow the characters to write the story. Mm-hmm. That's such an intimate, I would say, an intimate relationship that the author must have with the characters whom the author's creating. That's very intriguing, and I think it's quite phenomenal. You have to be a gifted author, a gifted writer in order for that to happen. I mean, this is really, really, really amazing. And how the story unfolds, and you going into your creativity, if you will, to be able to create this and write it out. You said that you have books and they're in your head before you put them on paper. What is that like for an author to do that? How does that come to you?
Oh, it's hard to explain. They're just there. I've always had stories. I consider myself a storyteller. I also like to speak, to tell stories orally as well. I did that. I went to a workshop once on storytelling. It was most fascinating. But no, it's hard to explain how stories come to you. I don't know what other authors have said, but they're there, and you feel that characters are there, and you start to write about them.
You're writing from the depths of what comes to you and the intimacy of your relationship with your characters and your book and your vision, and then you just put it on paper. Would that be an accurate description?
I guess so. I mean, there's always rewriting to be done, but usually the storyline I don't know, this book, it just seemed to unfold on its own. It was very, very intriguing, actually. It was very, very interesting.
What are some other books that you've written?
I've published a book called Come Fill Up My Cup, and it's not related to this story at all. It's a completely different story, but it's a romance. It's about a widow, a Canadian widow, who goes to Scotland on holidays and meets a Scottish man, and they fall in love, and there are problems, of course, but it's mostly set in Scotland, and there is a little bit of a murder occurs.
Okay.
And there's twists about things like that too. Again, the characters are there, and as they came to me too. And yeah, and I'm also working on a sequel to that book right now at this time.
That is awesome. That is awesome. Let me, if our viewers want to get in touch with you, information about how they can get your book, how they can correspond with you, share that information with us.
Well, I have a website called ljkpressandmedia.com, and that's probably the best place to go for me to go, for my readers to go. And and they can also call me directly too. And I have my I don't know whether I should reveal my email address to the public or not. That might not be so good. I don't know, but they can. But they certainly can go through my website.
We're just so glad that you could come on and share this time with us. I find the book quite fascinating, how the two lives parallel, how there are similar things that are taking place in their lives. You so eloquently lay it out and as I was reading and reviewing it, it just drew me in. So you captured me, and I'm sure that you're capturing others as you're sharing those awesome writings that you're sharing. Listen, for those of you who are watching, make sure that you go to the website, contact our awesome guests, order the book. I know it's available on Amazon because I viewed it. So as we close, is there anything that you'd like to say to our audience as we begin to sign off?
Not really, I'm just so happy to be here, and I thank you very much for having me it really is quite exciting.
We thank you for coming on to and being our guest. Thank you for giving us access into your life and for sharing these fascinating stories with us. I'm Dr. Larry Carnes, and once again, we've had such an awesome guest with us. We trust that you've enjoyed our program. We look forward to seeing you next time here on Spotlight TV.